great to see you. Thank you for taking your time to watch this. We have a really fun interview with you today. I'm going to go ahead and have, if you don't mind, can you give your name, where you're at, and tell the students a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. My name's Kory Young. I am a WVU grad. I work up at Nemacolin, which is a boutique and expansive resort all at the same time in Farmington, Pennsylvania, which is about 30 minutes from Morgantown. I currently serve in the role of Vice President of Lodging, and I'm also the General Manager of a 5-star boutique hotel there, Falling Rock.
Oh, wow. So that sounds like you have lots of different hats. Can you take us through what you do on an average day?
Yeah, so an average day, really, the day starts by walking the property. We have a sheet that goes 24 hours a day. So at a certain time, things have to be accomplished, things have to be executed. So if it's 6 o'clock at night, the candles should be lit in the lobby. If it's 6 o'clock in the morning, we should have clean and dry pool towels folded and out by the pool deck. So when I get in, first thing in the morning, I really just take a look around and make sure everything is in place. So for us, cleanliness, symmetry really says a lot about the property. And it does cost a considerable amount to stay there on a nightly basis in comparison to some other options that our guests have. So for us, the overwhelming kind of goal is to make price irrelevant. And we do that, we feel as though we do that well in a number of different varieties, but that all starts with cleanliness, order, and symmetry. So my day starts out with that. I tend to push back on emails. I don't really get to them until later in the day. And that's an intentional decision. At 8:30 every morning, we have a huddle where our senior leadership team will talk for 15 minutes. We'll go over agendas for the day, groups that are coming in, VIPs, associate birthdays. We'll go over a service standard. We'll go over occupancy patterns, arrival, departures for the next 3 days, and then also communicate out if we have anything special going on in our area, or if we need any help, or if we need follow-up with something, or if we saw something that we want to address globally, we would take that time to do so. Once that ends, and again, each day is a little bit different. So there are a number of different meetings throughout the week, whether it's a operations meeting where we're talking about the week ahead. But generally, as much as I can be, I'd want to be on the floor and talking with our associates. So that's really important, making those connections with our team, and then also having the opportunity to interact with our guests. And the most important thing, really, and the most fulfilling, is to spend time with our team and help coach them in ways that we could have elevated the interaction, whether it was verbiage, or if it was posture, or if it was the tone, or anything along those lines. So at Nemacolin, we really strive to be the best. That's the goal. That's the support we have from our owner. And it's an incredible environment to work in. But with that being the goal, we don't really do our teams or our resort or owner much justice if we're sitting in an office doing P&L reports and things of that nature. Although that is an important part of what we do, nothing is more important than being out with our team. And that's what makes it a great place to work, to be honest with you. That's where the fun is, by and large.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the team aspect, because many of these students, they're very much interested in leadership. And it seems like lodging is one of those industries that having multiple departments that work together at the same time is crucially important to providing a good stay to customers. Can you tell us a little bit about your leadership style and about how different departments work together?
Yes, it is critical. I mean, it's a large resort. So we sit on 2,500 acres, and there are a number of different departments. So really, it's like a small city. And in order to get things done, there obviously has to be a great deal of communication that takes place. But I think as one of the cores and pillars of who we are as an organization, it really sits and exists within the idea that there's a sense of urgency about what we do and how we respond. And having that kind of as the ethos of this culture, it really helps move things along because there is a lot of communication when it comes to lodging. It starts far before the guests ever arrive. It starts with the reservation team, making sure we get all the important details, making all what we call magic notes. One of the other things we love to do is create real life magic. So we like to know about the kids and how old they are and is it their first time. And we do a lot of work prior to the guest arriving, of trying to understand their preferences and referencing things that they may have said in previous comment cards, looking at where they had dinner the last time they stayed with us, if they stayed with us before, what table they sat on, what wine or sparkling or champagne they started with, appetizers, who the server was, and what was the reason of that stay. So those are all critical things, and that's just prior. So you're really relying on the reservations team, the pre-arrival team, obviously work closely with the housekeeping team, making sure that those rooms are prepared accordingly, if they need to be defeathered, so on and so forth. And then you have our welcome team at the front entrance of the resort. They'll call in the guests. We'll reference the guest's name. We'll know whether we're welcoming them back when we open up the doors to the car. If it's an anniversary, if it's a birthday, if it's Dr. Michael and Mrs. Michael, all that information is critical. And we really strive to execute at that level because, again, you are spending a fair amount to stay with us. And it's really important that when you do that, we're able to connect those pieces on the back end so that the guest really just experiences a flawless stay and, ideally is able to create some lifelong memories while they're with us.
Now, what I'm hearing here is a lot of attention to detail. Now, that probably matters a lot in different rating systems. I heard that you kind of understand sort of this background in ratings when it comes to lodging. Would you mind speaking a little bit about that?
Sure. We do get rated by Forbes Travel Guide, which is one of the big guides out there. We also get rated by AAA for diamonds. And then we also use our own Medallia scores to really see where we are against industry benchmarks as it relates to providing service to our guests. So really proud of the fact that the resort has a 5-star restaurant in Lautrec. On one particular occasion, actually on 2 occasions, they missed one standard among about 250 different standards. So that's incredibly impressive and rated as the highest in the world when it comes to 5-star restaurants. I believe the score was 99.96 or something like that. And the team was, to tell you about the team a little bit, the character, they were upset that they missed it. And they were saying, no. What we did was right. You need to reconsider how you're evaluating this. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it had something to do with wine. And then also in lodging, we have Falling Rock, which is a 5-star property. We go against the global brand standards. So some of the biggest names in the industry that you're familiar with. And we were proud to rank number 1 3 out of the last 4 years against that global brand benchmark. So that was awesome. And we celebrated that. Our owner celebrated that in the Wall Street Journal. She got a full page color ad with not only Falling Rock and Lautrec, which are both 5-star properties, but the Chateau is a 4-star property. Aqueous is a 4-star property. Aqueous is another restaurant. And then over at the spa, we have a really high performing 4-star spa that ideally we'll be able to get into that 5-star range this year. But we pride ourselves in that really because we're out there to compete. And when we come in every day and we work as hard as we work, we do it for a reason. And that reason, not that we necessarily need any validation, but it feels good when you put yourself up against the best properties out there in the world and you're able to deliver, if not comparable experiences, superior experiences. And that really feeds back to us when we talk. And it's, some people could say, oh, we want to be the best. We actually have the resources and the support from our owner to be the best in the absolute world. So we owe it to her. And I think I speak for all associates that when you go into that resort and you go into work each and every day, you're walking out. And ideally, in your heart of hearts that you made the place better. And every day you just get a little bit better. And Medallia, which is a popular comment card system that has NPS scores and so on and so forth. We also use that because that's a great instrument to be able to tell us where we're going and where we might need a change or, how we're going to approach different things. And so those two things, we talked about financials a little bit. Those are our report cards, right? And that's the navigational tool to see how we're performing individually as a whole. And if we're looking at an outlet, that's the navigational tool. You can tell a whole lot about your leadership and your management based on those metrics. Right. So if you have positive NPS scores as it relates to level of service, value of the experience, your overall NPS or whatever else it might be, that's a sign of great leadership. That's just the sign of great leadership because more often than not, teams that are going to achieve those scores are going to be the teams that have a positive and supportive manager in place. I want to say leader in place because I want to differentiate the two. Conversely, with the P&L, if you're able to deliver your GOP where it needs to be, then you've got a strong manager in place. So you've got the manager, you've got the leader, you put them together. And when those two things work, then you're in a good place, but the navigational tool for us is Forbes, it's AAA, it's the medallion scores, our common card scores, and of course the P&L. So we put all that together and those are the tools we use. And it's awesome because it also breeds a little bit of competition. And it's like, again, the people on our teams, we want people coming in and having some swagger, right? Mm-hmm. And having some pride in what they do. And when they get in there, it's like, all right, I'm looking at the guy across from me and you're not going to beat me. it's as simple as that, and that's healthy. Yeah. Like that's not an unhealthy thing. That's a healthy thing. But, competition breeds success, cream rises to the top and we get after it. We have fun and we enjoy ourselves.
And a lot of hospitality, it seems, is also this competition in between being the best at what you do. And it sounds like you all are very successful at being the best at what you do. So for many of these students that are just learning about the world of lodging and the wide variety of lodging there is, what makes your property special? And then also as a WVU grad, how did you get to this amazing place?
I would say, in my experience, and I've worked for 3 or 4 other properties, but I've been with Nemacolin a long time. And the reason I've been there so long is one, the autonomy. You really have the opportunity to go in and the mindset is, if I own this place, right? And that comes right from the owner account. If I own this place, what would you do? Would you change the music in the restaurant? Would you change the uniforms? Would you change the menu? Would you demo the restaurant and create a new one? Those types of opportunities and that level of involvement in our operations is so unique and it adds so much fuel to your fire and excitement about what you do because you have autonomy that is very, very hard to get and you have trust and you have a supportive ownership that's willing to invest in ideas and willing to invest in people. Nemacolin is a magical place and it offers a variety of different lodging accommodations. It offers a variety of different restaurants and activities, world-class golf courses, world-class spa. And I feel like those independent hotels that are that grand in scale are becoming far less available, for lack of a better term. I mean, they're rarities out there when you have the opportunity to work at a place that is capable of creating one incredible buildings and pools, but chandeliers and $50 million art collection. It's like a museum in a lot of different respects, but it's not about, it's ultimately, it's just about the people. It's about the ownership. And it's just about a particular pride in that organization. And I've been there as long as I have, really, because they promote from within. And that's what we really, that speaks to the development of people who come in, even at the line level, that if they have a spark, if they have passion, if they have drive and determination, and they truly enjoy what they do, there's going to be a lot of resources invested in them individually so that they can really become the best that they possibly can become. So there are a lot of great properties out there, and hospitality, regardless of where it's done or quote unquote what level it's done, is it's a beautiful industry, and it takes a lot of hours and it takes a lot of time, without question. But I've always felt like hospitality was giving of yourself so that others can create these memories. And you may be there on a weekend, right? I may be there and it's a WVU home game, right? And I'm like, oh boy, I wish I was in the blue line. But I have a responsibility, and we all do. And at the end of it, yeah, you work long and you work hard, depending on the roles. I'm in operations, so that's kind of part and parcel for the land. But for those in the finance office, they're your Monday through Friday, and there are a lot of roles like that in the hotel. But anyway, it's just it's awesome. So regardless of where you're doing it, just the opportunity. If you look at somebody else, and we always say a hire for the heart, hire for the heart, right? Because we just want people who care about other people. That's what hospitality is.
You
So,
can train the rest.
yeah,
That
you can
care.
train the rest. That's right. You can train the rest. So that's what we do. And how did I get there? Or how
Yeah,
did I?
what's your story? How'd you get there?
You want the whole story?
Maybe the 90-second version of the story.
90
What was
seconds.
your
All
path?
right. So I graduated WVU. I went back. I'm from New Jersey. I was in New Jersey for a while. I was actually in the insurance industry. And then by chance, I took a quick trip to the Keys. I got involved in a hotel down there, a resort, Hawks Cay Resort, beautiful place. And I thought, oh my goodness, here I am. And I was bartending, right? And like here I was trying to sell insurance policies. And all of a sudden I had people coming up to me saying, hey, I'll take 2 more of those margaritas. And I think, well, they want to buy what I want to sell and they're paying me for it. So I thought, now this is a whole different world, right? Yeah. So the old place, my old job, they used to say, hey, you gotta remind yourself this. I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific. And I'd be like, I don't really feel that way, but I did feel that way in hospitality. I did feel that way when I was behind the bar. And essentially the same thing. I came back, didn't know how long I'd be in the area. And I went up to Nemacolin thinking I'd work there one summer. I was behind the bar. I figured what a great place to play golf. We had the PGA tournament at the time. And then I got there. I loved it. The 401k match, I loved it. The insurance, wonderful. I loved it. And I thought, you know what, at this point in my life, I should consider this a career. And I just kept working hard. And like I said, at Nemacolin, I'm no different than anybody else. If you show interest and you've got drive and passion, they're going to invest in you. And I'm so thankful that they did. And that's how I got where I am. And that's why I am where I am. And I couldn't see myself anywhere else. I just couldn't do it. I'm a Nemacolin guy. I love it.
So if you had to give advice to rising students of hospitality and tourism that really want to get into this world, what advice would you give them to start on now? Is it internships? Is it learning about some of these financial documents? Is it?
Yeah, it's absolutely internships is a great way to get started, to get that experience. It is in many respects, it's a it's an industry where that experience goes a long way. I think the great thing about going to school and getting that side of the education is it lessens that curve a lot, right? If you can understand how to look at a P&L and how to course correct going forward to deliver greater profitability, that's a great thing. But I would advise people to get out there, get out in the industry and expose yourself to every area that you could. And that's really important in an internship is you want to get a little taste of conference catering, of purchasing, of accounting, of finance, of special events, of food and beverage and lodging, and all across the board. Like I said, it is almost like a small city. There's a place for everyone in hospitality and all different types of personalities. Where they'll be best suited, is really what that exploratory phase is about.
Yeah.
And they may find that, you know what, I love operations and this is what I want to do. You're not going to know that unless you get out there and you give it a shot. And even if that's just a small component of an internship, at least you're exposed to it. Or you might go up and see, what they're doing out on a golf course or spa or finance room or marketing, any of those different disciplines. So I think the most important thing is just to get out there, experience it, and find something that sparks your interest and your passion, and you go get it. And it's an incredible industry. It really is.
Now, I will ask you a question, just a clarifying question, because you said it a few times during our talk, P&L. So a lot of these students may not know what that is yet. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that document and maybe some of the other important ones that you see?
Sure. Well, your P&L is your profit and loss statement. So there are a lot of things that roll up into that at the end of the month. But candidly, you have almost full transparency in this day and age. Each and every day. If you're looking at your top line, your revenue numbers, that'll come out in the morning and that'll roll up. So you know where you stand for the day, you know where you stand for the month and for the year. So there's really no surprises there. When it comes to your labor, you can also see that every day. So you can know where you're tracking. You can set up different parameters as far as scheduling goes so that you're able to put your team in a position to be successful, but also be responsible doing it. And then you have a lot of your operational expenses, which, go into that as well. And then at the end of the day, you take your revenue, you take away from a departmental standpoint, you're going to put your revenue on top. You're going to take away your payroll, you're going to take away your supplies, and you're going to arrive at your gross operating profit for the department. There's some other things that go on there in the larger scale, but that's a little bit more complex. And then you build out from there. So you want to look at things because the one thing in operations that we don't really have that much say in is our rates. So you always want to be careful when it comes to your revenues and then your expenses as a percentage of those revenues, because it can be a bit deceiving in the sense of you may have a transient guest in for $1,500 a night. You may have a group guest in for $500 a night. That doesn't really matter when it comes to your par level staff. So, if we have 10 rooms, we're going to have one butler, we're going to have so on and so forth, right? So we really look at things on a cost per occupied room basis, as opposed to just purely looking at it from a revenue standpoint and then your labor as a percentage of revenue, because it doesn't really apply given the variance in room rates. So, the P&L is an interesting tool that we're able to use and reference and build upon, and then course correct and work with our purchasing team, who's fantastic, to bid out different things. Do we want to go with a different soap? What is the impact of going with a different soap?
The impact of getting a certain event to your property. I'm sure.
Yeah. And so there's other programs out there. There's a great program called Ideas that IBM created for revenue management. And it's impressive. I mean, you get up or you get in by 4:00 in the morning, it's run 100 different pricing models with all these algorithms, and it will say, this is where your rates need to be. And it's right 99.9% of the time. So, there's a general inclination, and I had it for years. I had this bias. I said, well, the reason why our occupancy is 30% is because our room rates are too high. Well, Ideas will kind of dismiss that idea, and they'll say, okay, well, what do you want your hypothetical room rate to be? So let's drop it by $100. Goes back. It didn't grow any more room nights. But what it did was cannibalize some of the revenues we had on the books, or potentially would have cannibalized those revenues. And then obviously that would have affected our profits as well. So a lot of that stuff, thankfully, is automated these days, and we don't get as many heated arguments between our revenue managers and our sales team. And
sounds way better than the old days of writing stuff down in an accounts book.
Right. Yeah. You look at the program and you're like, all right. And you can mess with it. You can try, and you're not going to beat it, as far as I know. You're not going to beat it. So that's a great tool, but we use everything. And technology is obviously so prevalent today. A new thing that we're really excited about is this middleware, which allows us to have the opportunity to have all of our different platforms communicate among each other, which is huge for us, because right now we do it manually because we want to, again, be among the best. But what you really need is to automate that process. And when you have information sitting in 7 rooms, which is a fantastic dining platform we use at the resort, and it mentions that it's their birthday, but we don't have that in our property management system host, there's a big problem there, right? Because we miss opportunities.
You want to be detail oriented. Right. That's how you get those nice ratings.
Hot Sauce is another program that we use, Opti for housekeeping. So all these notes are everywhere. And if we hot sauced an order through that this guest likes 7 hangers to be in the room, then when that guest books, the middleware is able to take it all in. So it's still a work in progress, but there are 2 companies out there that have really hit the ground with those, and they kind of write the code to be able to communicate, which is great. Again, another problem with those systems is being able to present an itinerary for our guests that is that's not without or is without a lot of manual labor. So the automation of some of those things is great, because not only and I'm not going to say it saves labor. It's just it allows us to spend those labor dollars on more important things, which are the connections with the guests and with each other, and not staring at a screen and creating itineraries for 8 hours. And no, we're still going to have that person, but now they're going to be walking around the lobby, and they're going to be introducing our guests to different activities that are available. So it's awesome. But yeah, there are a lot of programs. P&L is critical. The budget process is a fun and a long one, but same thing, I've always leaned on per occupied room numbers for the most part. So if you give us 10,000 room nights or 20,000 room nights, that's fine enough. We just take it in and we multiply it by the revenue we generated for each room night last year. And then we look at some things about, well, what's the effect if we raise the price of iced tea 25 cents or 50 cents, and how many did we sell last year? You can get into the nitty gritty, but ultimately at the end of the day, having high NPS scores, which is a net promoter score, that is going to give you an indication of where your business is heading. And
it sounds like there's a real important role to technology in all of this, from what you're saying.
It's critical. I mean, in this day and age, it's absolutely critical. And I can't emphasize enough that if, think of yourself, if you were going to go out and you're taking your family out 3 nights, and this is the only trip you're going to get summertime, and you're going to spend
you get a whole 3 nights off.
You
That
get 3
wonderful.
nights, right? And you're spending $2,000 a night,
Mhm.
and you go to a resort, and you're on the road, or you flew in, or you did whatever.
I want an app, people to know my name.
You want everything.
Yeah.
You want everything,
Mhm.
and you'd be highly disappointed if you arrived at that hotel and it didn't have not only your name. So most people have the name, right? But where they mess up is when there's a doctor, or when the 2 people checking in don't have the same last name, right? And the information's there, but you've got to take it out of the system, and you've got to give it to people in a way that's easily digestible.
Yeah.
That allows them the opportunity. So there's this great line, right? There's this great line, and it's this book by Francis Frey called Uncommon Service. And at our level, right? Or if you're a manager, if you're someone who can, and you don't need a title, right, to be a leader and all those things, but we need to focus on creating systems by design that allow ordinary people to deliver extraordinary service. That's where the technology comes in. Right?
Okay.
So when you have that, you can't. We have 1,200 associates. We can't hire 1,200.
That's a lot of people to
A-players.
manage at
Right.
one time.
Well, yeah. But imagine trying to get all of them to be A-players, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have 100, maybe you have 200, but those people, those other associates who are developing and ideally at one point will become an A-player themselves, we need to give them information that's easily digestible so that when the guest interacts with them, they're able to deliver the same type of experience during that interaction. So that's how technology kind of comes into it. And then how do we get that information? And yes, we have a guest app and we have an associate app, and we have all of that information, and we're always looking for ways to improve upon that.
Yeah.
As I
And
said,
to make it usable by so many different people.
Right. So we consider at this particular point in Nemacol's history is that we're writing the future. It's a time where there's a lot of companies, and particularly those who are publicly traded, that are beholden to their shareholders and others that need to make cuts, right? They need to say, well, I don't think we can offer turn down service every night. I don't think we can do daily housekeeping, right? And you see it all over the industry. Well, now we're doubling down, right? And we're saying, oh, you're taking away. We're adding more.
Okay.
We're adding more to carve out that niche.
Goes back to that competition piece you had mentioned.
Yeah, competition piece and a supportive owner. And it's an exciting time for us. And it's an exciting time for hospitality in general. Anybody who gets involved in this industry, I think you're going to have so much fun and really enjoy it.
Well, thank you for spending your time talking with us today. I'm sure the students absolutely appreciate your time and energy and expertise. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. And best of luck to all of you.